see.
Your natural intuition.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got into habits of eating food that overexcites the inner systems,
Yeah.
then you're going to start to become aware of that. Often we're not really aware of the effects of food on us or on certain friend types on us,
Mm-hmm.
or habits and sleep patterns and priorities. So the meditation will reactivate your natural intuition to start to give you insights as to causes and strategies.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need that kick-starting from outside, but the aim of it eventually is to make you self-reliant, where your inner guidance is awakened more. But typically, like if someone's eating a lot of fast food, your gut will get lined with a rubbery latex sort of coating to protect it against the harmful substances going through. So a lot of those sort of gut reactions, which are designed to tell you how to live healthily, are often numbed down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the meditation starts to awaken your survival instincts, your social instincts, which are the healthiest ones. So that might mean making life changes or making you aware of choices that you've already made that are unwise,
Mm-hmm.
and then how to get into a calmer, more calm way of life will start to surface, and will start to inform you.
Mm-hmm.
It will come naturally. That comes naturally through the process. But if at first there's a chaotic or noisy mind, it's often because there's a lot of noise and chaos in a person's life. So they need a period of quietening, and also developing a kind of standpoint internally to be able to watch it and to be able to observe and not get caught up. It's like if there's if you're on a merry-go-round, you want to get to the middle, to be able to sort of observe and not just be going like whizzing around yourself. So it's so there are some basic things. So the chattering mind, but you need a central focus at first of all. For example, concentrating on the breathing, the sensation of cool breath coming in and out. That's very different than if somebody's advising you to sort of change your thinking, listen to your thinking, think about your childhood, think about a person. That's very different. But when you say the breathing, there are different parts of the breathing physically. You can concentrate on your lips, on your mouth, on your nose, on the channels through the nose, the nasal cavity. You can concentrate on the throat. You can concentrate on the lungs. You can concentrate on the way that the abdomen, full of all of the colon and everything, is expanding and moving backwards as it pushed down by the air. So those are different locations where you can anchor the attention.
Yeah.
And that makes it much easier. If you've got, like, for example, if you've got any busy place and you only concentrate on the doorway of that place. So if there, if there's an airport and you say, right, watch watch the people, you're like, what? This is thousands of people, and they're all going this way and that way. Yeah. But if you just only look at the doorway, the revolving doorway, so they're just kind of one at a time. Yeah. So that's by limiting down the focal area. And then again, if you look at the doorway of an airport, you kind of look for a few minutes, and then you look at the taxis and you look at the shops. Your distraction gets taken away.
Yeah.
So counting can help to pin the attention and make sure that you discipline the mind to come back and stay with the breathing. So there's different ways of doing that.
Yeah.
But so that's one primary technique that's very popular across the board, actually. Or if you go to the Middle East, to Sufism, if you go to India, to the yoga Brahma practices, or the Hindic practices, or people like Sadhguru, you're going to find it there. If you go to Christian Gnostics, or those kinds of things, you'll find the same thing. Breathing is a great universal. Infants know how to focus on their breathing, for example. Athletes will do it. So it's a very universal. It's non-conceptual. You're just concentrating on a temperature change. The flow of the air against the membrane, mucous membrane, is cooling and then warming.
Yes.
So, and it's also got a pleasurable aspect. So, for example, like when you're about to sneeze, there's a kind of almost like euphoric sense in the upper area. The fine hairs, which are just like the hairs on your arm, those are stimulated, and then that's a good area to focus. But normally our attention is scattered across hundreds of objects, the knives and the forks and the cupboards and the gate and the things outside and the left on the floor and the laundry. So our attention is very scattered. So this is one of the ways it works, is to combine back and then localize and concentrate into a small area, and also to hold the attention. So this is a tranquility approach. It's simply it works on the process that the mind can only take one object at a time, even if it is like laundry, then shoes, then cupboards, and then toast, and then butter, and then, it's taking one object at a time, just very, very fast.
Yeah.
Even if you're watching a movie, you're watching the car, then the person, then what they said, it's jumping around, but one at a time. So if you localize and just focus on one object, you're going to get a kind of calm for a while, as long as you're holding the focus.
And then obviously the more you train yourself to practice that, the easier it gets, I guess. Like your brain starts to become coherent with that way.
That's it's an assumption. In practice, for example, if it's going quite well and then you say, I'm going to go and do a 10-day retreat like my friend, and you go to a 10-day retreat, often you suddenly find that the amount of noise in your mind and its unruliness gets actually heightened, because all of those things that I said, like the laundry and the toast and the bread and the butter and the thing over there, those things have been stopping a lot of noise from coming up.
Yeah.
Because you just haven't got time to deal with it. So you just kind of squish it away.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, people have got a lot of garbage in the cupboards, so, mental cupboards I'm talking about.
Yes.
So when you go on retreat and suddenly you've got all this vacant space, so a lot of, issues and old things and latent anxieties and fears and wishes surface to fill up that kind of space. And often the mind reacts against discipline. It's like nice and easy idea to say, I'm going to teach my children at home and sit down, and then they run over there. Well, it's the same thing. Or a puppy, you think, okay, sit, and then like, no, you just pooped on the floor. Well, it didn't do what you want. It did something sort of like, and now you got to clean the mess up. So it's the same with the mind. So I'm only saying that ideally, you concentrate and you hold the attention, and everything starts to calm down. And there are classic stages of that joy and rapture can start to arise, which is a bit more fizzy. And often that does happen when thought falls away and starts quietening down. Suddenly you find these blissful stages can arise and do arise, but depends how temporary it's going to happen and how sort of randomly that happened. It happens sort of bit by accident, you can't get it to happen again. So that's also a mark of it's like learning to do fishing or something. When you're a beginner, you might have beginner's luck, or good karma, or whichever way you look at it. But joy, and then happiness, and then equanimity, like stable. That's much the preferable one, because it's not as emotional, it's not as noisy, as joy is quite noisy. You might get rapture on your skin, like goosebumps and fizziness, or see lights or something like that. So those are all temporary effects that often also beginner meditators often get really excited by anything that happens, and they grab onto that effect, and they therefore get other sort of side effects because they grab onto it. The ideal is just to observe anything and let it come and go.
Yeah.
But typically, like I say, once if you do manage to get thinking to calm down, you realize that it's much more pleasurable than the thinking. Often we're used to solving problems by thinking more, or about thinking about certain things, like a problem solving exercise. But the idea that, when your thinking falls away and you're left with calm and quiet, so this is kind of new, and the joy is new. So.
That's really interesting. Yeah, absolutely. It's completely the opposite of trying to work it out with our mental capacity, but just allowing ourselves to let go of it, and that the solution comes to us in a unexpected way, maybe, or it presents itself in an intuition, maybe more than that kind of mental calculation.
That's a feature of meditative insight.
Okay.
So it's not you, and often people are presuming, depending on the mentality of the person and the temperament of the person, they're kind of presuming that this is going to be a cognitive exercise. So when you do cognitive behavioral therapy, you're really depending on the way that certain types of thinking affect emotions, and how both thinking and emotions affect behavior. And you're trying to change that through changing the thinking.
Yeah.
So it's very emphasizing on the thought patterns that you use. But meditation doesn't always do that. It can also just take thought as an object, and we're not used to doing that. We're not used to sort of
narrowing down.
No, stepping back from thinking and just allowing it. Look, there go a load of thoughts, and then let them pass by.
Yeah.
We usually
Like,
used to being involved with them, and
analyzing.
Much more, analyzing and following, and then just listening to them.
Yes.
And our educational system tends to, reinforce that. So, we've got this sort of, layers of memory. We're supposed to memorize our tables and then apply them, and then, prove that we can comprehend how they, it's very mechanical, which is a lot of it's getting, replaced by digital things. So, but humans are also capable of problem solving without activity. So just by stilling, often the solutions can just present. But often by not driving, like I say, we're very knowledge based, we're very information based, but often intuition works, but it can be unreliable. And it also gets into other areas that are, usually in the dialogue. So we're talking about things like the sixth sense, divine, divinity, listening in for channeling, and there's a lot of different things like that, or so on. So
I'll have to talk about that on another call in detail, because I'm quite fascinated by that. But
naturally,
I think
it's all part of the curriculum.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Because that's I think that's something that could probably take up a few calls. That subject.
Yeah, but it's something to do with the nature of the word is panya in Buddhism. In Hindic Brahmanic things, it's prana is not far off, but it's more to do with this silent clarity being wisdom, as opposed to information processing, which is wisdom, which is kind of more a Western thing. Is like the more information you've got, the more knowledge, and and the more then you're going to be able to synthesize that into creative solutions. And that's the kind of Western way. That's based on they've got a thing called the Bloom's taxonomy, which is a sort of hierarchy of memorization, and then comprehension, and then analysis, and like that's how most Western education thinking goes, and it's been like that since the ancient Greeks. They were using wisdom, truth, and beauty, but you know, that kind of, not that way of knowledge. So stilling the mind, clarifying the mind, so actually stopping it so it's actually nice and clear.
Wow.
That's one of the first aims, rather than driving it and making it. It's stilling, inner listening, and then often it's in between the thoughts that often insights arise.
Right.
Or you find that the brain and the mind is just more refreshed by then, and then it's just better at doing what it does, because you're not overdriving it the whole time. It's like if your computer's really hot, if it's full, if your main page is just junk full of too many folders, and the memory's like straining, you know, if you write down, you've only got 8 gigabytes instead of the nice 24, you know, that's nice and free for it all to work, something like that. Sometimes you just need to defrag. You've been overdoing it day and night for a long time. And sometimes it just needs a pause to sort of process, you know, and clear itself out. You know, we used to do that, like defragmenting the hard drive sort of thing. It's a bit of that. To just rest the nervous system and the other systems that are connected, give the hormone system a chance to reboot. Like when you go camping, you know, for 6-7 days out in the forest, you know, away from all the lights and the noise and things, often that's enough to sort of reboot the natural circadian rhythms, where you'll get refreshing sleep and those kind of things.
Yeah, recharging your whole self. That's really fascinating. Just another question: would you suggest trying meditation with your eyes closed, so that we're receiving less information, so that we can internalize more easily and let go more easily?
There's not a categorical answer to that. You can't categorically say yes or no, because even though the you know, the popular image of meditation is you're sitting with your eyes shut, in most settings for meditating, if it's been set up well, there isn't too much distraction. It can help. I mean, you know, if you do meditate, you know, with your laptop and your iPhone and other things that are distracting in front of you, you're kind of allowing yourself to be easily distracted. So closing the eyelids can help. It's there, but there are methods of meditating with your eyes also open. Okay. Even ones where you are visualizing an object, you know, where you're mentally creating an imagined object, but you can still walk around with that. Something, I mean, you're aware of augmented reality, where they have like these sort of VR glasses, and they put a, you know, a dinosaur or something in front of you, and as you walk around, it's kind of with you. Well, there are existing meditations. There's one called Kasina meditation, where you visualize a sphere. So that's what you still your attention to be able to do, is to be able to visualize this sphere. And then similarly to augmented reality, is you will alter the element that it's made from. So you can, you know, make it from stone. So it'll be a stone floating around in front of you that's spherical, or you make it from water, you make it from fire, make it from colors, you know, the spectrum, or, you know, red, yellow, green, orange, those sort of change it through colors. So those can be done with either open or closed. You know, I've done it when I've been walking on monk walks. So you just visualize it in front of you, and you realize that you can do it with your eyes open as well.
Sure. And in fact,
it's kind of like if, you know, if Walt Disney was doing his Mickey Mouse thing, you know, you'd ask him, can you visualize Mickey Mouse with your eyes open or closed? And like, either. It doesn't really matter, you know, like there he is, he's got his ears open. And, I got it, you know. So in answer, most beginners will start meditating with their eyes closed, mostly, to help them focus within the breathing.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just looking into how meditation can help children and young people, because I think there's a lot of suffering. There's a lot of intense you know, they're under a lot of intense pressure, I think, certainly with this pandemic and schooling. And how would you advise to help introduce meditation to children and young people? Is there a kind of different technique that's simplified or kind of strategic in a way that would be better adapted to them? Or would it be
firstly, there's actually a controversy about this at all, whether you need to teach children meditation. It's not a categorically accepted idea. It's even rejected by some spiritual teachers. They're like, you know, like, until an individual has two things. One is a fairly well integrated sense of self, and the other is something called object constancy, that they're actually able to hold, you know, quite comfortably an abstract sense of themselves and an abstract sense of objects. Until they're sort of ready for that, a lot of things might not, that to an adult make sense. Yes. They won't necessarily. So that's something to be aware of. So when people start say, oh, we're going to teach 6-year-olds to meditate and 5-year-olds to meditate and 3-year-olds to meditate. So, you know, when you're talking about children, you know, I think you have to be a little bit careful about it's quite different for different age band widths. Yes. I teach 12-year-olds to 16-year-olds here in the Philippines. I've got 100 students at the school here. Yes. And meditation, so each of them gets a typical lesson, which includes many components, will be 40 minutes. Of the 40 minutes, 9 or 10 minutes at the end is devoted to meditation. Most of them choose, I mean, I use an app, and even when we were in the classroom, I was using an app when we weren't online, called Insight Timer. Yeah. An Insight Timer has 26,000 meditations on. Yeah. So there are many different categories of meditations within there, for overeating or for anxiety or for sleep or sleeplessness or something. So there are many different types of meditations, but I looked in there under teenagers or school, meditations, and I found one that's by Jenny Bell, I think, or Jenny Bell, and it's called Classroom Reset. And because we were using it so often in the classroom, and it's very uncomplicated. It's like, okay, feel your feet on the floor, feel your breathing coming in and out, and any sound you can hear around the room and outside the room, let it be, just, it's very nice. It's very undemanding and it's very simple. Yes. And it's a simple quieten down. And the students like that. And for me, as a sense of constancy, when we went into lockdown, into COVID and all that, I found that many of them, given 26,000 to choose from, and I said, yeah, you can just, choose any of those on there you want. Only a few of the kids wanted to explore those other ones. They did, and I'd just say, well, just show me which one you used. And it might be a Gandalf sitting there going, this is meditation on the mountain meditation or something. Yeah. There are loads of different ones. Some of them chose those things, and they were a bit more adventurous, but many of them just like the constancy of having the same thing. So they've done their homework, they've done their other exercises, other activities, and now they've clicked the classroom reset, and for 8 minutes. So I'll ask them, I say, how's that going for you? And they go, oh, great, I do it first thing in the morning. It sets me up for the day. I love it. It's a really good way to start the day. I feel really refreshed afterwards and ready to get on with things.
Massively.
So those are 12-year-olds to 16-year-olds, and all of those ages, the 12-year-olds don't seem to have a different reaction to it than the 16-year-olds. But obviously they will be processing at different ages of their puberty and all just different things, different hormonal stresses and anxieties. But because it's so universal and so simple, breathing is breathing, and calm is calm, and noisy is noisy, and stress is stress. No matter what they're dealing with, whether they're dealing with depression or gender issues or overeating or motivation problems, whatever it is, it's a good general universal. That's the good thing about it, is it's not specific, but there are specific meditations in there, you know, for
Sure.
whatever, you know, like body dysmorphic, you know, identity disorders or ADHD or you name it. There's meditations for everything in there.
Brilliant.
But yeah.
That's amazing. So just, I don't know if I know we were going to do like shorter ones, but once I get in, I don't want it to end.
Oh,
I have another question, but it's,
time to die. Yeah, life is over.
yeah,
what's that?
for the next one. Because my next question is probably quite a big one, but we can touch on it and then we can expand maybe on the next call. And it kind of naturally brings me to the benefits of meditation, the benefits on the mind, the benefits on the emotions, on the body, on the spiritual elements. That's a huge question, and I'm sure it merits quite a deep answer. But are there any?
Can't be emphasized enough. There's just multiple benefits.
Yeah.
It's often it's an important one because people have to evaluate things.
Yeah.
You know, they have to evaluate their priority to-do list of their day. So when they realize the amount of benefits that it has on your life in terms of preventing arguments, you know, preventing sleeplessness, preventing you becoming a bad parent and snapping a temper or impulse control issues, you know, people, you know, I counsel many, you know, guys are like, I browse porn again. I hate when I do that. You know, if you meditate, you're going to realize that you've got more impulse control. You've got, and that can relate to shopping addiction, eating disorders. You know, people are emotionally lonely, so they stuff themselves with food and then they feel sick and bloated and they don't like how they look anymore. There's many things, and it still, you know, still comes back to something that's almost kind of too simple. So the physiological differences, it has to, you know, to meditate is one thing, you know, it's the cross-legged sitting there breathing, but it has to go with moral basic foundations as well. You can't just be having a way life and then expect meditation to go fine. You know, if you're going out clubbing and taking, you know, methamphetamine or something, you know, it's not going to work. You have to be, or you can't be kind of, you know, unfaithful to a spouse or some way creating disharmony around you and expect that your meditation is going to go fine, or acting very narcissistically and egoistically and selfishly and expect it's going to drop in place when you meditate. You can't meditate with that kind of selfish thing. So yeah, the no drugs and alcohol thing, the speech, that your speech is, otherwise it will just recoil when you meditate, is you'll become more attuned to what is divine conduct, which is harmless. It's divine conduct, but it's not impinging on other people's boundaries, like taking what's not given.
Yes.
And then sexual and pleasure morality. So you're not involving in anything concerning paraphilias or unfaithfulness or perverse things, S&M, BDSM, or these kind of things, you know, like, you know, abuse of children or animals, or thing like that, or abusing pleasure. So there's a third precept in Buddhism, which is kame sumichajara. It's technically unwholesome pleasure, you know, harmful to you or others. And then the types of speech, so you're not lying and you're not deceiving and you're not abusing, slandering or spreading gossip or false accusations or shouting, harsh speech, sarcasm, or also just random nonsensical gossip and just creating a kind of habit of that kind of entertaining nonsensical talking. So there's that. So those are the precepts which underline that. So once that's in order, plus your meditation on top of it, then you've got much more of a stable lifestyle.
Yeah.
And that supports the stable meditation, and the stability of the meditation is also supporting your stable lifestyle.
Right.
So a lot of the things that are destabilizing, if you like, the foundations of your life. So you might have friends who all take drugs, or you might have friends who are all addicted to entertainment, or are, you know, lazy, or they love to fight, or they glorify violence in some way, or gambling, or you got a friend who's a shopping addict. All of these kind of things that they can disorient your life. So your meditation will be either wiped out because they're not supporting it. You know, they diminish and demean the benefit, and instead they're constantly pulling you to do activities otherwise, some kind of way. And so once so your drinker friend, you know, falls away, you give them up, you realize they weren't a friend anyway, and you adopt the healthy friends. So then you're going to find you physiologically. So we're back to the benefit, you know, is the physiological benefits go hand in hand. So it's kind of indirect but direct, if you like. You know, the meditation and the precepts: don't kill, don't steal, don't do abusive sexuality, and don't do bad speech, and don't do drugs and alcohol. There's a basic 5 that goes hand in hand. You know, they're like 2 hands washing each other.
Yeah.
And the purification process in general means aborting and discarding and abandoning the bad habits. So the awareness of them, or the recategorization of them, you thought like that's not a bad habit. Oh yeah. So you find out actually it is.
Yeah.
You know, and then many of the things that, like the adrenaline cycles, which are going on, which are creating an addictive cycle for pornography or gambling addiction, or online gambling, or online shopping, or whatever it is. You know, there's food addictive disorder, but the kind of the dopamine kind of cocaine internal cycle that's happening is changed and reappraised, and you start to see how it's a diminishing thing, that it's constantly never satisfying, and in fact it's getting deeper. You know, you have to go further and more to get the same rush, you know, that you used to get. So it's an addictive cycle, and the addictive nature of it, and the fed upness with it, and so that leads to abandoning it. That's a difficult thing. So someone who's addicted to pornography or addicted to gambling, you know, they have to get to a point of fed upness, to the point where they actually want to let go. They're not hanging on the next, you know, just, you know, it is worth hanging in there, you know, that goes. And that next cigarette actually can be, you know, the last one, or that next joint, or whatever it is. So then you get physiological benefits, because you're not ruining your health. You're getting good sleep, you're getting good diet, you're eating on time, you are you're less running on fumes, you know, in terms of adrenaline. And the hormonal balance gets restored. So your moods are better regulated, and then your mood swings, and the consequences of them are not coming back from the friends and the relatives that you've been irritating, and you know, the kind of various consequences of actions that you do when you're unhealthily dysregulated in some way. So the meditation acts to sort of put that balance back in order, and to reactivate your internal wisdom balance, and set that up as a homeostasis, a kind of normal, rather than an exceptional rest. So then it becomes, you've got get more stability. And then the things like the noisy mind, you know, that the chatter and the very noisy mind, you know, from a disharmonious lifestyle, not enough sleep, or overwork, or the wrong kind of work for you personally, or financial pressures because you're borrowing, or in debt because you weren't working before, you know, these kind of different things, and how to manage your affairs, how to manage your your timetable, you know, how to manage your time, how to balance your need for work, rest, and play, which priority problems to deal with and which not to, how to drop obsessions, many of those things, and both deep ones. So people who, for example, might have family patterns that there's a big key which needs to be understood, like maybe the, you know, the nature of depression or the nature of eating disorders, or if there's something heavy like a narcissistic parent in a group or something like this, or genetic predispositions to schizophrenia or something, you know, whatever it is, there might be a big key that needs time and attention and awareness and wisdom. They're two different things. One is like, hey, there's a problem, you know. It's like if you're living in a house and it's got termites, you know, you actually need to know that in the first place. Yeah. Same thing. But then like, I was just watching my gaming. I was gaming online, never mind the termites. So once you actually get aware, like, oh, then there's a big problem. Actually, you shouldn't neglect it, you know. Yes. Or the place where they make the bonfire, the tree over it is now hanging to the point where it's about to set on fire. You should be aware of that. Yes. And then you need to do the relevant actions to the next step, you know, to deal with the termites, to deal with the wood. Otherwise your house is going to fall on you. So in the same way, meditation, you know, if you've got some of those other kind of underlying issues that need to be addressed, so you think it's a gambling issue, you know, but no, it's actually, you know, you didn't really realize why both your parents were drinking themselves and arguing, because you didn't realize there's a whole other layer of stuff you didn't know about, you know, be it, you know, whatever, narcissistic parent or whatever, something like that. So those issues can also take time, and then that also becomes just part of your priority to-do list, you know, that you don't, you know, some people just fill up their to-do lists with shallow, superficial things to block out what they really ought to be learning and paying attention to. But that real priority thing will start to come to the fore, whatever it is. It might be that someone just missed their vocation and has been stuffing their life full of nonsensical activities, you know, and they need to get back to what they were originally trying to do.
Yes, yeah, that all makes so much sense, and it's so integrated into like every part of our whole being as well, isn't it? The way we think, the way we feel, and how that can then affect our relationship.
Really, yeah. I mean, I think everyone is in the process of developing a holistic worldview plus details. So that's, but how well that integration is working is also down to the sort of maturation of the practice.
Sure.
Because people can be like hyper focused on details they've got to sort out, or they can be over blobby, you know, too much on the big picture, so they are not paying enough attention to details. So this integration of both. That sounds very artistic. It's not meant to be.
I like the over blobby word.
The blobby word.
I think that sounds great. Yeah.
Well, it's also, some people are thinking too big.
Yeah.
That's also something that a teacher and a teaching can help with. For example, that's why, I mean, the Buddha was a master of masters. So he was able to advise on some of those things. You know, some people presume right from the word go. They say, I'm going to do this thing, this meditation, which is a bit like prayer. So I'm just going to be thinking and thanking God for creating the universe. And it's like, the Buddha, like, I didn't say that's what you need to be doing, you know. So you don't need to think about the creation of the universe, you know, in the Buddha's teaching. It's not theism, it's not deism. And it's not, you know, a lot of people like presume that's going to be somewhere in there, that you're kind of, it's all about gratitude, or what the gratitude is all about saying thank you, and like, for what? So so the Buddha is saying, you know, you don't need to go into how was the universe created. So a lot of people are assuming that, even atheists, you know, they're assuming that that's the big problem. How, you know, whether, you know, was it a big bang, or is it a steady state of, you know, stuff that's infinite? But like, you know, like, it's not, you know, you don't need to know the answer. You just need to drop the question, because we're only going to be talking about stress and suffering and its cessation and how you get to it, not that one. You don't need to know that. But, you know, you get people like Bill Bryson or authors, and they assume that, you know, it's going to either be about proving that God does or doesn't exist, or getting all into evolution and, you know, why the dinosaurs and why the shellfish up the mountain and how, and the flood, and, you know, like huge thing. They think it's got to be a 10-year project, and so not necessarily. You know, you might just need to know why you spend too much time in your room and you aren't having enough of a balanced social connection, or, you know, the social work that you wanted to be doing isn't working out, or why you're drowning in too much compassion for other people and exhausted or something, you know. So it's a lot about that's about aim and intention. So that's also these two things: the view, you know, how does the body and the mind and the universe and time work as view, and then how an aim and intention. This is, I'm referring here to something called the Eightfold Path, but these two are called the wisdom component, which is view and aim and intention. Aim and intention is more or less the same thing. So, you know, sit down with an aim and an intention. Someone sits down and goes, I'm going to lose weight, and that's their aim and their intention. So they might need to talk, you know, with a teacher about that aim and intention. Someone wants to have a brilliant memory. Someone, it's only about love. You know, another person, it's all about bodybuilding or something, or you know, there's a million different things. So it's about aligning that with the intention of meditation. Otherwise, you could be kind of going the wrong way, or you can be spending a hell of a lot sitting down to meditate to see the beginning of the universe or something, you know, or meet God, or become God, or become one with God, or you know, there's if you start involving God in there, you might be at it a long time. So you might not want to be disturbed, but you know, it's there's a lot of things that people generally have assumptions and pre-agendas, you know, and those can be quite complicated. So that's also where spiritual companions, admirable friends, well-informed and trained guides, masters, and also sort of ancient masters are very helpful, because they understand this territory and terrain, and the kind of, you know, the differences also between them. They're not all the same. You've got sort of pagan and neo-pagan things, and then you've got theistic, Abrahamic things, you know, from the Middle East, you know, the whole Judaic stuff, and then you've got Brahmanic, Hindic things. There's all, you know, Aboriginal things. You've got Latin American things. You've got the Aztecs and the Mayans. You've got New Age things. You know, they're all, you know, there are many different modalities, and that's before you get onto modern therapy thing, all the different main sort of therapies. So there's a lot of different orientations, and that's going to affect people. It's not enough that you can just get 25 people and sit them in a room and get them all to shut their eyes and watch their nose. Everybody brings a lot of preconditioning and assumptions and wishes and prejudices in to the meditation, and that will also affect what's the outcome, you know, the relative success in terms of relieving stress and suffering.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. That's amazing. We're gonna, I think, because we wanted to keep them bite-size-ish, didn't we? Although I could spend weeks here.
Yeah, it depends on the size of the bite, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's only 13 hours long, this one.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's one of the shortest ones we managed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we do the
on a
week.
big grand scale of time. It's a blink.
Absolutely, it's a blink in time. Well, again, thank you so much. And you know what I want to do here is I just want to let's see if I can bring it up here and still be on the camera, because I think the beginning part got cut off. So I just want to reintroduce you at the end, which is the other round.
That's very Jewish of you. We're going to get circumcised at the end instead of the beginning.
So here we go, my dear friend Bante Rakkhita, brother
Hi,
Ben.
it's nice to be here.
Absolutely great to have you. And so just very a little bit about you. So you moved to the Southeast Asia from the UK. You studied graphic design and creative arts therapy workshop skills. You proceeded to work in London, including Cambridge area, with brain damaged children, autistic and special needs. And you're passionate about the truth, arts, wisdom, meditation, and Buddhist teachings. The move over to the East seemed a natural fit for you. So your friends and family were all encouraging of your transition, of your journey, of your move. And
go over there. Don't come back.
Oh,
no, it's not true. It's not true.
And you started a temple and a Sunday school charity foundation in the Philippines, helping poverty-bound families. I remember that was we were exchanging around that time. And you love to teach, innovate, explore, and study. And you've also helped to found a large-scale local community arts event in your hometown.
Backwards in time.
Backwards in time before the move. And you've also performed in multiple capacities on and off stage. I do remember that era as well. You're grateful for an amazing group of friends from all over the world, and you make sure that all people can avail your services and counseling, support, advice, and guidance, which is...
So long as they've got a MacBook, an iPhone, and a satellite, they're fully welcome. It's just most people got one of those, aren't they? Kicking around in the back garden.
Exactly. So I'm massively grateful for today. It's always so lovely to talk. And I must say the list of questions that I have, they're growing, and I think we'll be doing quite a few sessions. So anyone watching, if you want to invite anybody, we'll be posting the link onto your Facebook group, my Facebook group, or link or page or whatever they're called, profile.
For the next one, right? Okay, right.
The next one, absolutely. And by all means, if anyone has questions, they can post the questions or PM either of us, and we can ask the questions, or maybe we can open up a little chat thing and people can write the questions.
Can write offensive insults on the side.
I'll filter through them quickly. I'll start reading. Oh no, I can't ask that. That's way too rude. So again, thank you very, very much. It's really, really lovely to see you, and have a wonderful evening, because with you it must be approaching 8 p.m. I guess in the evening. And
I'm not. By the way, I'm not lying on the floor with the camera above me. I am actually sitting upright. Just to clarify that.
You'll have to.
It looks like it suddenly. It looks like I'm lying on the floor, like. No, I am actually sitting upright.
A relaxed interview, exactly.
Yeah.
Very cool. So nice to see you. Take care, and we're going to see each other, if still cool with you. What are we today? Wednesday, Sunday.
That's great. I'm always, watching you at live. Watching you evolve into Gandalf. It's Gandalf the Grey.
On the next time.
Yeah.
I'll get my
go. Thou shalt not pass. Or whatever it was.
What's the spell? Something Leviosa. Guardian Leviosa, not Leviosa. That's when.
Sure, that's not Harry.
Harry Potter.
Is it?
It is. Oh yes, wrong film. Silly me.
There you go.
That would be Dumbledore, wouldn't it?
There you go. All right.
Oh, lovely, great. So you have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much again. And anyone who wants to ask questions, please just write them. Write them under the post in the comment section. We'll add them into the next, and I'll add them at the end of my massive list already. I have a lot of questions coming your way, but thank you so much. That was really, really interesting. And there was a lot of common sense and logic in there, which really resonates, actually. I look forward to hearing the recording. And what I'll do is I'll post the recording onto the Facebook as well, so that we can, and we'll be adding to YouTube. So
you can make a playlist. You can make a playlist on YouTube.
Yeah.
So it'll be a kind of series.
Absolutely. Series sounds brilliant. All right. Have a
Cool
wonderful
beans.
thing. Take care. And I can't wait to actually see you again someday in the real. In the real. How cool that would be. Once
What's
the
real?
opening up. Yeah. That's another question. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Sending you big sunny.
Hey, and I realized Calais, the place you are is actually in the south of France, isn't it? Called Calais. Oh, I thought it was Calais.
Oh no, that was a joke about Calais.
In the north, but just like in the south bit of Calais, city, just at the back of the line of trucks or something. There's a little campsite or something. No, I got it now. Yeah. I realized. And there's a connection between where you are and my hometown, Hertfordshire, Hitchin, which is the only two places where they have chalky slopes facing south, because that's the conditions you need for lavender.
Okay.
Because my dad's house and his children's, his brothers and sisters, they live right next to a lavender field, and there's a lavender distillery in Hitchin. And I read that, it's just absolutely perfect conditions, but that only occurs in two places, and the other one is where you showed me the photos of.
Right.
So it's Calais and Hitchin. Those are the two. I presume is lavender, is that a French word? Is it like la vendeur or something? Is that a French word?
Lavender. It must be somewhere, in the sort of lavender eotisis or some kind of Latin-y sort of meaning behind
it's an interesting stuff. It's a kind of tranquilizer. I remember I was looking after my grandma at that house, and I used to boil it up, in my room, and create a kind of sauna of lavender, and it's quite calming,
Yeah, it's calming, but
my granddad used to smoke it in his pipe. I don't know what effect that had, but it might explain a thing or two.
A week later.
I think I probably got it in the genes. I probably got lavender flavored genes somewhere. Someday they'll do my DNA and they'll go, "What's this?" He's got purple genes, mauve color. How do they get in there? So,
Excellent.
But next in your Gandalf thing, you'll be able to have some.
I'll definitely bring that along next time.
Smoking lavender next time. With the big hat.
Now that you're fine with that, and like the stick-on beard. Well, I'll just grow it back quickly.
I wasn't going to say anything, but I thought it might need waxing, just
my hair.
There you go. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Lovely.
Okay, Mr. Frodo. Take it easy.
You too. Peace out, Zen out, and see you on Sunday. Thank you.
Zen over and out. All right.
Take care. Bye.